Hey everyone, it's Tara-Nicholle Kirk here. I am the metaphysician. I'm a master coach and spiritual strategist to smart, successful people. I'm also the founder and CEO of Soul Tour, where I coach and teach the metaphysics of success and self actualization and lead a school of spiritual strategy. So, we are here today for Transformation Tuesday. And I want to talk to you today about something I'm calling the Envy Epiphany. So, this is all about why you envy, who you envy, and what to do with that envy. All right? Okay. So, I don't really do random. So, if I'm bringing you guys a lesson, it's because there's something happening in my life in this moment or in the universe, the world, this moment that's causing this issue to come up. So, we're here to talk about envy today because I keep having these conversations where people are saying, wow, dang, I'm jealous. So I had one conversation in a group where someone was asking, they had something they wanted to celebrate and they didn't know what to do to celebrate it. And I said, well, hey, for my 40th birthday, I went to 9 places in the world that I had never been before over 18 months. Spent, a month or two in some of these places, caught a boyfriend or two in some of these places, right? And they were like, whoa, I want to do that. I'm jealous. I had another conversation recently. I see we're always having problems on Instagram on this phone. I don't know, Insta folk. I might have to come back to you. Um, I had another conversation. Let's see if I can fix Instagram, guys, real quick. I had another conversation super recently where I was sharing about my approach to solving my childcare problem that I had in the pandemic. So during the pandemic, like everyone else in the world, and actually here, sorry for y'all who are on Facebook, I'm actually gonna try to, in real time, fix my Instagram streaming problem. Here we go. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Technical difficulties. Let's make them go away, though. Here we go. Let's try this. And either this works on Instagram or y'all have to catch me later because I'm about to get into this Envy Epiphany. All right, so we're back on Instagram Live. Let's see if that works. See if I see you guys come back in. Thanks to you guys who are on Facebook. I was sharing that we're going to talk today for Transformation Tuesday about what I'm calling the Envy Epiphany. So it's all about why you envy, who you envy, and what to do with that envy. All right. So I was sharing with one group of people who had asked for ideas on how to celebrate a big thing. That for my 40th birthday, I went to 9 places in the world I had never been before and spent, over 18 months and spent a month or two in a couple places. And like I said before, caught a boyfriend or two in a couple places. It was really fun. And they were like, whoa, I'm jealous. Then I was sharing with some moms about how, when I had the same childcare problem that everyone else in the world had during the pandemic, I ultimately chose to resolve my childcare problem by joining a country club because the country club had a kids club in it that didn't close when all the schools closed and had a pool where I could get lessons for my kid to swim at a critical moment in her swim, education process. And I had the resources to do it. And so I did it. And it continues to be an incredible resource to my family. And people were like, dang, I want to do that. So I was having a conversation, at the baby school the other day with another mom who's in a similar business to mine, but I think is charging way too little and has not quite leveraged her full unique genius quite yet. So, we were talking and I'm like, yeah, we're moving to Mexico City and I'm enrolled in this intensive Spanish class. And it was like everything I said, she was like, but I want to move to Mexico, but I want to learn Spanish. I was like, and I've got this like incredible nanny here I set the intention that I would get the Zen Mary Poppins and I got her. I have these 2 businesses that are amazing and everything is always working out for me. And I have traumas in my life too. I have dramas in my life too. I've had this very intense medical experience in the last year, but I also have the skills for them. I have the skills to be able to deal with them. And I mean, when I talk to you about a comeback, y'all, physically come back on 1,000, right? I have beautiful help everywhere I go. And it wasn't always like this. This has been the journey of my lifetime. I was a 16-year-old mom in Bakersfield, California, broke. Let's see, 25 something years, 20 something like that, 20 something years ago. And so, I've had people say to me recently, you're so incredibly free. I want to do that. The things you're doing are the things I want to do. And so in that context of having had a bunch of conversations like that recently, I was reading something from an author who I know and admire, and she said something like this. She said, here's what it means when you envy someone. When you envy someone, it's actually a super helpful emotion, she said. She said, it tells you that somebody else has something that you wish you had yourself. All right. So I was like, is that really what's happening? I mean, that is for sure the dictionary definition of envy. When somebody else has something that you wish you had yourself, often that results in the emotion that we generally label envy. But you know what? My framework is all about recalibrating, actualizing, and aligning. All right. And I was like, there is a way better, more meaningful, and more useful way to interpret and understand envy. So that's the epiphany I want to give you guys today. I want to help you recalibrate. Your understanding of envy so that you can know what to do. You can know how to interpret it when that emotion arises within you, okay? All right. Envy does not mean that somebody else has something that you wish you had yourself. Envy means that somebody else has something that you already have within you, that you have not, that is ready to be, wants to be released, wants to be activated, wants to be actualized, and has not yet been for whatever reason. Your traumas, your disappointment, your trances of fear, your trance of scarcity, you're just not there yet in your life. Haven't given yourself permission to do it yet. But when you envy something, it is a super helpful emotion. What it means is that that person who you envy has something within them. There is something that you see within them that you already have within you. And it's ready to be released. It's ready to be activated. It's ready to be actualized. It just hasn't been yet. And it wants to be now. Okay, or it wants you to begin that process now. So, because what I do is practice and teach and apply the metaphysics of self-actualization, there's a lot to understand in metaphysics about what this universe is, who you are in it, what your role is in it, the creations that you came here to create, the sacred contracts that you came here to fulfill, the things you came here to be and do and learn and have and experience. All right. And understanding the metaphysics of actualizing your true sacred self requires understanding your own patterns, your own energies. And many of those patterns and energies are interpersonal. Right? So as I teach it in our School of Spiritual Strategy, you have these interpersonal energies. All right. You have magnets that draw you repeatedly to other people who have certain patterns and energies within them for the express purpose of fulfilling a contract you have to learn, be, do, have, create, experience something. And as soon as you do that learning, those magnets, those poles on that magnet reverse, and you will no longer have those attractions to those kinds of people. All right. You have moats. Many of us in our attachment styles, in our neurobiology and our trauma, have moats, energies that we actually, signals that we send out and broadcast out unconsciously that keep help away, that keep the right kinds of people away, that keep resources and assistance away. right? And until we can see our moats and begin to dissolve them. And we also have mirrors. There are magnets, there are moats, there are mirrors, there are people in your life, in this universe, who you specifically will come into relationship with, whether you know them personally or not. Right? Sometimes the envy sparks because you're like watching a documentary and you're like, dang, I wish I could live that life. Right? Envy is one of our mirrors. Envy is one of our mirrors. And envy is the mirror pattern where you are being brought into contact with this other person. And when you feel that envy, what is happening is your wise inner being sees something in them that you have within you, that is a unique sacred gift in you that wants to be unlocked, unleashed, released. And that's the spark, right? Now, your wise inner being that and knows that and sparks that emotion and wants the gap between how you be and who you are and who you're being now and your potential, true, sacred, big self. Your wise inner being sees that quality or trait in that other person and sparks and wants the gap between how you be and who you be now and who your potential big true sacred self is, wants that gap to create energy and direction for your life, for your progress, for your purpose. All right. Now, if you have a harsh, hindering, active inner critic, your inner critic also sees that gap, also sees that part of you, that trait of you in this other person. But your inner critic disagrees that you are that, disagrees that you have that unique sacred potential, and pulls you in the other direction of judging the emotion that you have as bad or wrong. So envy is what we call it when it feels bad, because we are closer to agreeing with our inner critic, with the voice of fear, with our inner saboteur, with our shadows. Envy is what we call it when we experience that, like, oh, aha moment of, hey, like, I see this thing in you and it sparks this emotion in me. We call it envy and judge it as unwanted and uncomfortable when we still are in agreement with our inner critic and our shadows and our inner saboteur, right? But I like to think of a lot of these conversations that we're having as conversations about this like cosmic tug of war between your wise inner being and your inner critic, which I'll just use as like the personification of fear, scarcity, unworthiness. All right. All of these trauma. So let's just call all of that the persona, the voice of that is your inner critic. All right. So we have this cosmic, collectively and individually. Okay. This is not just, you didn't make this inner conflict up. There is a cosmic battle. If you ever go to church with some old Black church ladies, trust me, you will hear them talk about that there is a battle on in this universe, and it ain't between flesh and blood. It is a battle of principalities. This is what they mean when they say that, and they're right, because, old Black church ladies are often right, just as a shorthand rule. There's a battle of principalities on, and the battle of principalities that we're talking about it's not good and evil in the old oversimplified kind of way, but the truth is that you have within you this wise inner being, and you also have within you this voice of fear. I see someone, Miss Cranes on Instagram, is saying, I'm in a constant tug of war. You are not alone, my love. You are not alone, my love. You are not alone, my love. All right. So we feel this constant, for many of us, inner conflict. And when in a lot of these conversations that we're having right now, that we have about spiritual strategy is, let me get intentional about how I say this. When you get skillful, the journey of becoming skillful with spiritual strategy is the journey of building the default mode where, when you have this inner conflict between your wise inner being and your inner critic, you regularly drop the rope in that tug of war, and you drop the rope regularly in the direction of letting your wise inner being, letting your capital B, capital S, big self win. You let your big self win. And I mean this in the littlest ways and in the biggest ways. I think about that all day throughout my day. If you've ever had that experience of like trying to negotiate with yourself about why you don't need to work out today, that's that same tug of war, right? And when you get skillful with spiritual strategy is when you build the practice of regularly, you can actually get to a place where the negotiation isn't even there that much or that active or that loud anymore. Where you're constantly letting your big self just win and getting into alignment with whatever that be. And I'll tell you, it sounds scary because your big self wants you to do these things that are way outside your comfort zone, which is true because your big self wants your expansion. Your big self will bring you into inevitably, if you let your big self win that tug of war, your big self will bring you into more expansion, bigger dreams, bigger life. And for some folks, that big life is big achievements. For some folks, that big life is nothing more than the breaking of generational curses that allows you to dwell in inner peace, allows you to have a peaceful family or household. Big is relative. Big is relative. All right. So when you have that envy feeling, meaning you've got this tug of war going on within you, you see somebody else that has something that appeals to you and sparks that emotion within you, your wise inner being, big self, is like, yo, that's you. You see that? You have that in you too. You see that adventure she's going on? Don't you love that? That's because you are an adventurer too. You are an explorer too. You see that business she has? You feel that envy or you feel that spark of energy? That's because the entrepreneur in you. It's like when we say namaste, right? The divinity in me salutes the divinity in you. It's kind of like the opposite. It's like that spark of energy is like, whoa, do you see that in them? You will have that in you. And so we call it envy if you're still in agreement with and being hindered by your harsh inner critic. And we call it inspiration, admiration, when you drop the rope in that tug of war and you're letting your big self win and you let yourself see that the reason you feel that spark of energy that you feel is that person has something that you have too. And I see it all the time in my students, those who are like, yo, wait a second. I admire this. I see that energy. I see that people will say, like, I want to be in your expansive energy. That's because those are people who have kind of won. They're letting their big self win. And they're seeing something in me that they admire, but they also are starting to believe that the reason they admire it is not because they're envious in a way that should be judged or shamed, but because there's something within them, the thing that I have or that I am or am doing that they desire to do, that energy is within them too, and they desire to be expanded, right? So they get in the energy of that expansion. So, I like to think that what the specifics here, let's talk about what to do when you feel envy. I think actually anytime you feel any unwanted emotion, anytime you have any unwanted experience, you should be asking yourself the question, what wonderful thing could be trying to come to me through this? Okay. And I don't mean that in like a super spiritual bypassy way. I mean, literally when people die, you can ask yourself this question in a very deeply meaning making kind of way, so that no experience is lost on you, and so that you like get maximum juice from the freaking squeeze of life. If you got to go through stuff, and we do, because life involves things that do spark suffering, why not try to get meaning out of them? So when I say ask yourself what wonderful thing could be trying to come to you through this, I don't mean like just the idea like, oh yeah, I might go to the burrito shop and meet the love of my life. I mean, maybe there's some like game-changing disruption to your personal mythology that's trying to happen, that wants to happen. There's some part of your expansion that is trying to happen that could be furthered by your envy, so-called envy of this other person. So one way to begin to work with and use your envy is to, kind of get still and quiet with yourself. Have an introspective practice. This is why in all of our programs, we ask people to do a specific prescribed daily ritual that I send them 6 days a week, where I'm like, do this, write this, because you do have to build some level of infrastructure for your inner life so that you can have these reflections and get this meaning instead of just constantly reacting to the world and then going to sleep and then waking up and reacting to the world and going to sleep. So tune into what it is about that person that you envy, right? Because what the specifics of what it is about that person that you envy are the beginning of revelation for you. It begins to reveal to you what it is within you that wants to be unleashed. Okay, so when someone says to me, gosh, I am so jealous of your freedom, what I know is that the self-liberator in them is sparking at seeing the self-liberation that I've experienced. So in my mind, I'm sending them blessing rays for their own liberation that second. So Ms. Cranes on Instagram says like authenticity, right? If you see somebody else being fully authentic and you're like, damn, I would love to be able to express myself or show up in the world like that, that means you're on your way. I declare that for you, Ms. Cranes on Instagram. Like that means you are on your way. The authenticity in you, the full, like bring 100% of yourself to the world ishness in you is ready to be cultivated and unleashed. And don't rush it. Just like things take the time they take. Sometimes it's like you see somebody else be that way and it's like instant permission and you just start being that way. Sometimes it's the beginning of putting you on a path or a process or a journey. Either way is great. Let it take the time it takes, all right? So I'm going to just drop you a few like concepts that I see people reacting to in me and I think it's because they have it in them. They see my self-healing journey physically and from trauma and from, trauma and drama. Truly, I'm not even being like facetious at all. So I'm like, yeah, then the self-healer in you is ready to be released. The explorer and adventurer in you wants to be released. The soulful and aligned and profitable and impactful and influential and transformational, wealthy creator, entrepreneur in you wants to be unleashed. The big dreamer in you sees my big dreams and is like, damn, I've had so many people say, I want to dream like you dream. That's because the dreamer is already active in you and it's like chomping at the bit. It's about to come out, right? The big, expansive, true, sacred self in you sees mine and wants to come out, right? There's a part of you that wants to give you, sees me do it and wants to give yourself permission to pivot, permission to reinvent yourself, permission to plot twist, permission to lick the freaking plate in life, to use the phrase of my friend Victoria Castle. Permission to make a freaking move, make a decision, set a date, make a freaking move, and let the chips fall where they may. And that's a word for somebody. Yes, I'm intentional. I do these spirals of transformation. I do all this healing. I do blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes you set a freaking date and you make a freaking move and you let the chips fall where they may. Because you trust that everything is always working out for you. And if you know, it's like Kanye said 100 years ago, the pessimists, just don't talk to them. Literally just don't talk to them. So somebody sees that sometimes there's some people in your life you cannot talk to. There's some people in your life you cannot share your dream with. You don't have to ask for permission. You have to give yourself permission. You have to learn your own wiring. You have to do your own healing. You have to let things take the time they take. All right. And The tool that I want to share with you beyond all of those things, the mantra of what one, or the inquiry, let me say, the inquiry prompt of what wonderful thing, what fuel and direction can I get out of this unwanted emotion? What is it within that person that I'm envious of, that I see that is sparking something in me because I have it in me already? The last tool I want to offer you is the tool of collective effervescence, and it is a spiritual strategy. I was at dinner the other night. I had a sitter the other night and had this like beautiful series of yes signals that was happening on my Mexico City move, literally where in a day's time, I found an apartment, realized the owner of the apartment lives 15 minutes from my house in Oakland, invited her to meet me at my club. She came out and met me and we brokered a deal in like a day. All right. So I'd had this wonderful day and I just happened to have a sitter in place for that night. I had my friend Keisha, who's also coaches and is a coach on her own, and she coaches employees to entrepreneurs. And she coaches sometimes at Soul Tour. I was like, Keisha, come have dinner with me. And she was like, great. And she could, and it just like all lined up. So we sat there in like one of my favorite tables at my club, getting beautiful service, beautiful food. There was this other table of like older Black women across us. They were having this beautiful party and their energy was amazing. And they were saying, they came by our table and were like, you guys are beautiful. Because Keisha and I have that collective effervescence that is the opposite of when you see so there's that, you see someone, you're envious of them, there's something they have that you want, and you don't believe you can have it. And that creates that envy. The flip side is what Keisha and I have. And I call it collective effervescence. I have it with Keisha. I have it with a bunch of my students and members. I have it with some of my coaches and mentors and therapists. We have it and create it intentionally in our own mastermind and in our own school. Collective effervescence, which is just this like mutual contact high of expansion energy, right? And so what I want you guys to do is to start getting intentional about surrounding yourself, finding other people who have those traits that you want or are in that mode of expanding in the way that you want to expand, and who are doing things. They don't have to be doing all the biggest things ever, but they do have to be, people of power and people of purpose and people of progress. And I want you to start gradually letting that envy transmute into energy and fuel and direction and admiration. All right. I want you to start calling these people in. You've heard, in various spiritual traditions, there's this idea that where two or more are gathered in the name of source, spirit, all that is God, like Holy Spirit descends and like fills up the place and things are different. The atmosphere shifts. What's possible shifts, right? So you can create that collective effervescence, that extra kind of energy and extra intelligence by getting yourself in the room, and sure on Zoom, but also in the real life room. That's why as I relaunch our programs, we're actually building in real life experiences into many of the programs because we need to be in the room with each other. All right. And so you can kind of look up the idea of a mastermind. Napoleon Hill was the one who kind of originally documented and used that phrase, mastermind. And a mastermind was really not meant to be like a coached curriculum. He actually talked about it as like kind of like connecting a bunch of batteries to a single wire, where you're increasing the amount of power that can pass through the wire, because each battery adds this extra capacity. So the idea was that more minds, through the spiritual law, stimulate and expand the capacity of power for all the other minds in the group. And so he talked about masterminds as like, get in the room with other people, create these friendly alliances with one or more other people, where the whole sort of mission of the congregation, of the gathering, is to encourage each other to follow through on your expansion. All right. And I want to just say, like, if you do, and you can do this with friends, you can do this by getting in the room with a mentor, a coach, a therapist who actually can help you problem solve or can witness and help you heal. Or you can do this by joining a formal mastermind group. If you're interested in our groups, they're not open yet, but they will be soon. Just DM me on whatever platform you're in, the word Epiphany, and we'll make sure you're on the list to be one of the first to know when we open our groups back up. As you create masterminds, I will say this: be careful, be cautious, cuidado, okay? Be intentional. Be intentional about their energies. If someone's energy don't feel right in your soul, that's a good enough reason not to mastermind with them. Okay? Be careful be cuidado when it comes to their paradigms. It is I'm going to do a whole live just on be careful whose paradigms you pick up. Be careful whose paradigms you pick up. So, you need to be around other people who speak life, who believe in expansive possibilities, who feel like expansion energy when you're around them. All right. And you need to be intentional about making sure there is great harmony and alignment in the group. Take care with those relationships, invest in them, be there for them, pour into them. You need to be around people who are aligned with you on values. All right. Like, you need to be around with people who can push back on you and be like, but girl, is that really true? Like, when you say that you have a limitation, they can be like, but homie, for real though? I don't think so. You know what I mean? In a constructive way. You need to be around people who have other resources or thoughts or insight or influence that they're willing to bring to bear for your purpose and your progress. And you also need to make sure you're around people, and this is a big one as people are joining paid groups. You need to be around people who have similar value sets. Okay, so I've been in some groups that were very oriented toward entrepreneurship, and it's kind of like if all they're oriented around is money and conversion. And I'm like, that's great. That's like a piece of it, but that's not the only reason I do the business that I do. Like, I do this business because it's my soul. It's one of my sacred contracts. Actually, it's millions of my sacred contracts. It furthers me. It furthers my people. It furthers my family. I had a very large, financial target for the business vision that I just recently rolled out to our vendors and our teams. And someone pushed back and was like, I think this is smaller. I think this is too small for you. You can do more. And I'm like, yeah, I could do more, but I also work 25 hours a week. And I also have a 4-year-old I want to be around. And I also don't believe in just money for the sake of money. That's literally what we call metastatic toxic capitalism. And I also we don't just set goals for the sake of it. There's a reason and a why and a soul and an alignment to them. So make sure if you're going to mastermind with people, which you should, make sure they are people who have similar priorities, purpose, value set, vision as you. And at the same time, make sure they're not all just like you. Some of the most powerful transformational coaches, consultants, vendors I've had in my business. I mean, one of the most powerful is this guy named Sky Bryan, who's like from the South and kind of like an atheist. And I met him and he was like, yo, I don't even know what you do, but I'm pretty sure your business is going to be one of the biggest businesses I've ever worked on just because I've met you, but I don't even understand what you do. And he was like, so break it down. So what do those words mean? What do those words mean? And there was this incredible power we got out of me and all of my creative flow, divine feminine, him and all of his very focused, like masculine energy, and the rigor that he used to draw out from me some of the essence of what I was doing in the business, some of the essence of the value that we created, right? So make sure that you have people with whom you are aligned on and in harmony with around like values and vision, but who are not all just like you. All right. And the thing that I love that Napoleon Hill says about Mastermind, and the idea was truly like that when you join up with other people, there is another mind that is created. It is the mastermind that is greater than any of you individually. All right. There's an energy. I happen to actually be one of those people who believes there is one infinite intelligence that is in everything in this universe. And we activate it when we come into connection with and agreement with. Like you need someone to stand in agreement with you on your dreams, your visions, your goals, your intentions. All right. You can't do big things on your own. So I love this. There's a quote Napoleon Hill has about how the mastermind principle is the principle through which you can accomplish in 1 year in the mastermind more than you could accomplish without it in a lifetime if you depended solely on your own efforts. All right. So I love that. I love that energy. I love that vibe. I want you to take full advantage of that. And the other thing you'll see is as you get into masterminds, if you care about them and you start to care about the dynamic and the people, they will also, it's like anything else that you do, especially with respect to your business or your goals, it will call forth, it will trigger you. The people will trigger you. They will stir your shit up. You will start to see that you have these other things that, stop you from getting help. You'll see where you have I'll do it myself syndrome. You'll see where your vision might be too small. You'll see where you need to go faster. You'll see where you need to go slower. You'll see where maybe some of your team building efforts, your efforts to delegate have gone poorly and you'll see that you're the common denominator, and you'll see where you can do that work and you'll start to do that work. So it can be a very, very healing and transformational experience, even though it is more people to be in relationship with. All right. So that is it for me for today. I love y'all. I will see you a bunch. I'm doing lives all the time now just because I got a lot to say and I love to talk to you guys. I missed you this weekend. I'll tell you about the weekend soon. I want you to keep your head up. I want you to keep your heart out. And for sure, I will see you here on the next Transformation Tuesday. Oh, if you loved this, please like it on whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and also click the little bell so you can get notified when I do new lives. I love to see you too. This is so beautiful. I give thanks for technology that we can do this. Let's see what else. Oh, if you want to get these actually in your email inbox, go to soultour.com/subscribe. soultour.com/subscribe for $11 a month. We actually send these to you. And on Saturdays, we send you a whole nother set of wonderful teachings, things from my archive, deep dive, more like hour, 90-minute, 2 hours, sometimes even teachings and a practice of the week, a daily ritual of the week. I think that's about it, y'all. All right. I love you. I'll see you next Transformation Tuesday and also live. Oh, and share this. Let's bring that collective effervescence in. If you have another friend who you think would love to reach their full potential before they die, this is the place for them to be. So make sure you share and let's make it a party. All right. I love y'all. See you soon.